So today we're going to talk about how valuable is your time, whether it's passively or peace of mind, and we're going to break down the difference between leasing a property or listing a property.
People say rentals are passive income.
We say define passive.
Well, with passive income, you're really looking at another income stream. You're looking at what you're using your property to give you a monthly rent, and you're also there's so many factors that you're also having to deal with. The price of the house is going up, so that's happening. You're getting a tenant paying your rent, your mortgage for you. So you treat it like a 401k where you're investing a little bit. Maybe you're not cashing out at positive cash flow. Maybe you're investing a little bit of money, but your tenant's probably paying 80 to 90% of your mortgage. So they're paying that. Your house is appreciating, plus you get tax breaks in the end. So when you factor in all those, passive income could be a good thing for you. Now, on the flip side,
well, I would say, tell me though, when do we ever see where they think it's passive, but they're too involved? Like you have a story of
it's basically how valuable is your time. We have a lot of owners that micromanage us. They tell me what I should be doing on my job, and that those owners we end up cutting when we got the chance to do that, because we need to have control of what we do.
Right.
So if they're spending a lot of time on their property, especially with the do-it-yourselfers, if you're calling and talking to the tenants, you're having to every month have to call them and get rent. If you're calling them about HOA violations, you're spending a lot of your own time, where if you're an investor, I would rather hire a property management company to deal with that kind of stuff, and then I can be doing what I do best and buying properties or looking for properties, looking for good deals.
Anyone can be considered an investor.
Yes.
It's just how you leverage your time.
You just got to start at some point.
Yes. And so it's how noisy are you going to let this investment be? Right. Is it going to take a lot of your time, effort? And we realize a lot of times that's usually by the time they get to me. They're so fed up with their property because they have micromanaged the whole thing. They come to us and say, we just got to be done with this. And unfortunately, when they come to us at that point, in Texas, we have to continue the contract they have with the tenant. Yeah. And so then the only person that can buy that property is another investor. But they don't want to buy it at market value because they got to keep the tenant in place and keep the rent. So it's just kind of a bad cycle they get into. Instead of offloading it to somebody who can help them with their time and take on the property management side. I think so many people have had really bad property management companies that they're burned. Same thing in real estate. They've had a bad realtor and they want to for sale by owner. Same concept. And so it's like, what is it that you do differently from maybe everybody else in the property management space? What's your number one thing you think is the most different thing you do?
We try to communicate. We try to talk to them, whether it's the owner or the tenant. We do monthly drive-bys. We do yearly property inspections or evaluations. We're anywhere we can to help.
And you're fielding all the calls.
Moving along, we pick up our phone.
And anytime remember that one Christmas?
Number one.
That one Christmas where it flooded through the ceiling? Did the landlord have to deal with that phone call, or did you deal with that phone call? Tell it. So what happened?
I'll tell you that story. Okay, it's Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone's ringing off the hook. I couldn't get it answered the first time, but it immediately started ringing again. So I picked it up, and all I hear are fire engine, the siren going off, and then I hear a woman just screaming. The roof fell in, and finally I got her calmed down. I heard firemen in the background. I got one of them. Got her to give the phone over to him, and he told me what happened. Basically, the toilet upstairs flooded all night, and it saturated all the sheetrock. This was on the top story, and it flooded all the first floor sheetrock. And finally, once it gets saturated enough, the whole ceiling came down. So it wasn't the roof of the house; it was the ceiling of the downstairs. And
how many family members were over at the time?
The family they had like 4 or 5 people living. They were all asleep because it's 3 a.m. They were all upstairs, but when that all came crashing down, it just scared them to death.
Chaos.
And which is understandable. But the firefighter said we turned the water off. So now, do it yourself, or what do you do now? It's 3 a.m, day or two before Christmas.
Christmas Eve.
Who are you going to call? And
they usually don't have a vendor list to call.
We have vendors on call 24/7, and we got somebody there. They started. It was probably 5 o'clock in the morning. They started the fans going, started cleaning up the wet sheetrock. I mean, we were already on it.
Yep.
And there's no do-it-yourselfer that is prepared for that.
They wouldn't know what to do. They'd probably be in shock, trying to figure out what to do. I mean, our house flooded during the ice storms. Yeah, if they answer the phones. Our house flooded during the ice storm, and even being in my line of work, it still took me a minute to figure out what do we do in this instance.
And then it takes, how long did it take to rehab your house?
Yeah, it took me 6 months, and I was lucky because I had all the vendors in my back pocket that could help me out. Everybody else is taking 1 to 2 years to get their houses redone. So it's who you know, right? So yeah, I would not want to be a DIY or a landlord during that situation. And then imagine the impact on their family. Like, okay, maybe you could take care of it, but maybe you're hosting a whole bunch of family because it's Christmas Eve, and you're with your kids, and you're doing all the things, and now you got to go deal with this emergency that at that point, you're probably fed up at that point. Yeah. So those are some of the extreme things that could happen, obviously.
But it happens.
It does happen.
We get calls basically every time my phone rings. I feel like we're firefighters and we're crisis negotiators or whatever. And it may not be a crisis for us, but it's a crisis for whoever's calling us.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the most important thing that needs to be addressed right now.
And if a property,
you got to do it, or it gets ugly if you don't.
Yeah, especially if you have been hired to do this and you don't. So I could see other property management companies falling through at that point. Maybe their portfolios are just too large, or maybe they have a turnover in staff, and so they drop the ball, and then it becomes a legal issue probably at some point.
It can be.
And it just gets ugly. So what does your time actually look like? And I think a true smart investor understands what their time is.
Most good investors, they know that that's an expense that I have to have, or that I have to have, or I want to have, because I don't want to deal with that. Right.
And then sometimes the peace of mind comes in where they just don't want to deal with anything at all, and they want to offload the property. And that's where they may come and talk to us. Maybe the property has, outlived its value, because there is a point in time where you can only get so much more rent. It's getting older, and it's going to need major upgrades at some point. It makes sense to offload it at that point. Right. So that's where we'll come in and do our analysis of what it looks like in the market. And usually that's a good conversation to have, because they've owned it long enough, they have great equity in it. They may own it outright at that point, potentially.
Most of the time in those situations, they already own it.
Yeah, so it's just bonus.
It's just money.
And we're just taking that, and we're either rolling it into the next property, or they're doing whatever it is, putting their kid through college, or whatever they want to do with their money.
The good thing with investors, most of the time they're selling that so they can go buy another one.
Yep.
So, and usually it's an upgrade from what you're doing there. So I love flipping investor houses when they're ready to get rid of the rental. They're going to go buy another house that's better. And
when sometimes they're doing
we all make more money that way.
A 1031 exchange to do that as well, so they can defer their taxes and that whole process.
We're getting a lot of California people moving here, and they're saying, okay, I can buy 1 or 2 houses, do a 1031 or whatever, and I can make an investment property plus live in my own house.
Yep.
And we're seeing more and more of that too.
When life hits hard, late payments, medical bills, job loss, or even the need to move quickly, many homeowners feel trapped. The fastest way out seems to be selling to a cash investor, but that means giving your home away for pennies on the dollar. You don't have to do that. Nearly half of homeowners today are equity rich, and that value belongs to you. With our One Move program, you can unlock that equity immediately, get cash in hand now, and still share in the upside when your home resells. Or, if you'd rather, we'll shop your property to multiple cash buyers so you can choose the best offer instead of settling for one low bid. Go to donedealoffers.com and discover the smarter way to get cash fast without losing the equity you've worked so hard to build.
To those who take the risk, who bet their life savings, their blood, sweat, and tears on a rental property to make a nice place for someone to live and a nice living for themselves. To those who get this call or no call at all. To those who keep adding more properties, it will all be worth it for you and for them. You care about preserving your investments. So do we. Real Property Management.
And the funny part is for those of you who are like, well, that's easy for Californians because they're coming to Texas. We can take our Texas money and go to Alabama or go to Ohio and do the same thing. Like there are rental opportunities, turnkey rental opportunities in different states. I have a lot of great relationships with other agents in other states, and they have the same systems we have set up here in their states. And so a lot of times I'll get someone that goes, well, I have $300,000. I want to invest it, but I can barely get a shack in Dallas for that, and I definitely can't get a return on my investment. So sometimes it's like, well, let's take that and go to Alabama. Let's take it and go to smaller towns that have established, they even have more multifamily. We don't have a ton of multifamily in Texas. That's a big shocker for a lot of people when they show up here. There's no multifamily. And there's not really any zoning for multifamily either. It's just going to be a giant, huge, or even a 100-door apartment complex. They're not going to just let you have a piece of land and put a fourplex on it. Maybe in Sherman or some of the outlier areas.
Sherman, Fort Worth,
yes,
those areas.
But you want to do that in McKinney or any of those areas? No, they're going to be putting a big complex on that. That's been reserved for a big corporation for development. So
we actually had an owner call, or actually their realtor called us. Mm-hmm. We started talking to the realtor, and they ended up, they had properties in Houston, Dallas, and Florida. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about working with Real Property Management, we got other offices all over the U.S. So I did referrals to Houston and Florida, and RPM's working those, and I'm working the one in Dallas. So
we both have networks.
It helps to have that network that you can help the owner, make it easier for them.
Yes, because you don't want to get a noisy investment in another state. Like
right.
It's hard enough to do it here. You definitely don't want to do it when you don't live there.
And on the flip side, they live in Africa.
Awesome.
So they're
not touching anything.
They don't want to do anything. They're not here. Just send me a check.
So then it's really understanding like how many hours do you want to spend? And now a landlord still has to communicate with you when they're working with you. How much time do they spend with you? Is it a weekly cadence, a monthly cadence? Like how often are they connecting?
We usually call them when we need them.
Okay.
When we need an approval on something. But if no news is good news,
right.
For us, and we typically only call them when we need to get an expense approved or something like that.
And you have a threshold of expenses, and it's probably different for each landlord.
Typically, it's $250 to $300. If it's below that, they trust us to make the right decision.
Right.
We can go move on and do that.
That's noisy.
Would handle most garbage disposals, minor electrical issues, those
HVAC
kind of things.
Tune-ups.
So it'll cover that, and we can do it without having to call and talk to them. But if it's above 300, then we need to get their approval.
Okay. And then beyond that, they're just getting their check every month?
Yep.
Pretty much? We
do it electronically on a portal.
Nice.
So the owner has a portal and the tenant has a portal. And the tenant does their work orders on the portal as well as pay rent. And the owner has their portal where they can check what's going on with my property. So they could be on the beach in Hawaii and still get rent payment to directly into their checking account electronically.
So very similar to like an HOA portal that most people are familiar with. You're doing the same concept, but that's actually with now your business that you're creating. You're making a business,
Yes.
and it should be something that you do treat as a business.
Yes. And that's where they get their tax forms at the end of the year. They get a 1099. That way they can work with their CPA
yep,
or accountant to take care of the books.
Do you feel like most of your investor, even single family investors, I consider anybody who's working with you should be an investor. So any of your clients, they have a team of financial professionals that are helping them. They're not normally doing it on their own. They probably have a bookkeeper. They probably have a...
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
And if they don't, we recommend our people out of our
group.
network. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing with our network. I mean, whether it's beauticians through HVAC to
Dog sitters.
CPA to dog sitter. I mean, we
have everything.
We got everybody in that network, and I mean, I know somebody.
Yes.
I always tell them, give me a call. I got, if I can't find them, I know somebody that can. And then I call you.
And that's another thing that saves time. So if you're going to consider doing the route of listing or leasing a property, you want to make sure you're doing it in the way that makes the most effectiveness for your time. Otherwise, you just bought yourself a JOB, and nobody wants that. Yep. And if you realize you have a JOB or you have maybe hit the threshold of the amount of value you're going to get out of the property, then we switch it over and we put it on the open market.
I mean, it really all depends on your situation. Now, if maybe there's death in the family, I always say it's good for us to let us rent the property for a year or two, let the family decide when it's not so stressful trying to bury the person.
Yep.
And go through all that. Let's decide, because there's a lot of infighting within the family. I want to sell the house. I want to keep the house. So that gives you time to decide what you want to do. We're getting you an income. You can don't leave the house empty. Do something with it.
Yes.
An empty house is, once you start it back up, it gets ugly on the maintenance side.
100%.
And people don't realize the plumbing, number one problem if you keep the house empty for a year or two.
Yes, because it kind of dry rots out almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when somebody starts living in it, it's kind of, and I mean, it just gives out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think so many families that go through those tragic times, they will just sell it off to a cash buyer, and they lose
They lose a lot of money.
Tons of money that they could have then used for some sort of legacy wealth in the future. And because somebody didn't put a plan together and didn't get their ducks in a row, they lost so much money, but they are paying for the convenience of it. Right. And unfortunately, they just don't realize what the actual price tag is, because they just want to be done with it.
Yeah.
So
that's why we're trying to do this, to educate people, to give them another option that you definitely want to sell the house at some point.
Yeah, let's put it on the real market.
But maybe you want to sell it when you get the right price.
Yes, 100%.